Army prosecutor Aubrey Daniel and defense attorney George Latimer were employed as consultants. Most names have been changed to preserve the privacy of those involved.
This is Fort Benning, Georgia, USA, 17 November 1970. For the dead at My Lai, one man, Lieutenant William Calley, stands trial. Now, somewhere in the United States Army, there's a designer with either an overpowering patriotism or else a very fine sense of irony. The authentic setting for this trial is red, white, and blue. Red carpet, white walls, blue drapes.
Gentlemen of the jury, all of you are combat veterans. 5 of you have battle experience in Vietnam. And now you're sworn to sit in judgment on this case. I caution you to keep an open mind until all the evidence is in. You will refrain from reading about the case, from watching television news, or listening to the radio. And during your deliberations, you will be sequestered. Captain Daniel.
May it please the court. The accused stands before you today charged with 4 specifications of premeditated murder under Article 118 of the Code of Military Justice. All 4 acts are alleged to have taken place in the village of My Lai, Quang Ngai Province, Republic of Vietnam. Specification 1. The accused, with premeditation, did murder a group of unnamed human beings, Vietnamese, not less than 70 in number. Specification 2. The accused did murder with premeditation a group, unnamed human beings, Vietnamese. Specification 1, additional charge. The accused did with a rifle murder with premeditation an unnamed human being, male, age unknown. Specification 2 of additional charge. The accused did murder with premeditation a human being, child.
First Lieutenant William Calley, to the said charges and specifications, how do you plead?
You're sure you want this understood up front?
I'm sure, sir. I plead not guilty, sir.
The clerk will enter a plea of not guilty. Does the defense intend to make an opening statement?
Your Honor, I will reserve my opening statement till we begin to present our defense. I can assure the court of one fact now, however. This defendant will take the stand on his own behalf.
Ellen? Oh, what's with this blue stuff?
It's a new toothpaste called AIM.
What about fluoride? Kid's cavity prone.
Henry, AIM has stannous fluoride, just like our old toothpaste. But see, it's a gel. It tastes better. And this gel spreads that good taste faster than paste in the normal brushing time. And AIM is low in abrasion, too.
I like it. It tastes good.
Who likes it, Henry?
You know so? Maybe you'll brush longer.
Take AIM against cavities.
Can't we do better than that?
They ask for tough laundry problems.
Yeah, these aren't tough enough.
How about this? Oil. Greasy oil.
Now that's tough.
Let's see. 5 shirts stained with dirty oil. Let's wash every other one.
Nothing will happen.
Well,
What a difference. They're clean. What did it?
concentrate it all with bleach, borax, and brighteners. Gets out oil better than other leading detergents. It's what you need to clean the tough stains.
All's what we need to clean just about everything.
Here on New Orleans last year, over 1,000 drivers switched their insurance to Allstate.
In San Diego, more than 1,900 drivers switched. In New York, 14,000 switched. In Chicago, 22,000. Why are so many people switching to Allstate? We'll give you a lot of reasons. Put your auto policy in your pocket. Bring it to Allstate. Compare companies. Find out why over 9 million cars now insure with Allstate. Find out why
You're in good hands with Allstate.
The common cold is a rotten thing. You miss so much. Take Contact. And remember, 6 or 3 or 1. To keep medication working in your system up to 12 continuous hours against sneezing, drips, congestion, you'd need 6 cold tablets.
2 every 4 hours.
Or 3 ounces of this.
1 every 4 hours.
Or just 1 Contact. These contain things for aches and fever, this for coughs, not found in Contact. 6 or 3 or 1. Give your cold to Contact. Daytime, then nighttime.
Now begins the longest court-martial in the history of this nation. It sits in judgment of war crimes. A young prosecutor, only 28, pitted against an elderly, experienced trial counsel for the defense. Now, to some, it seems like an obvious mismatch. There's even a feeling in the air this could be a cover-up, a whitewash, of events the Army and the public conscience would prefer to obliterate.
And Captain Briggs, precisely what was the mission of the 1st Platoon of C Company in My Lai that day?
RLZ was west of the village of My Lai. We would land here, then move in an easterly direction into the village, neutralize the village, then move out here. Along these trails and across this ditch here, set up defensive positions in the event of counterattacks.
Thank you. And the mission of Lieutenant Calley's 1st Platoon while they were in the village?
Search and destroy. Knock out all bunkers and tunnels, capture weapons, burn all hooches.
For the record, hooches.
Houses of Vietnamese peasants.
Anything else?
Kill all livestock, destroy food supplies, render all wells unfit for use.
Now, can you tell me, what was the overall purpose of the mission in My Lai?
Engage the 48th VC Battalion and destroy it once and for all. We were told it was very tough, very experienced. After all, this was Pinkville.
Meaning a communist stronghold.
Actually, sir, the name came from the fact that the area was colored pink on the military maps. But it was a VC stronghold.
Did you encounter any Viet Cong?
Matter of fact, no, sir. Only civilians.
After the landing and your move through the village, did you come upon a group of bodies?
Yes, sir.
Would you show us where you came upon those first bodies?
Right here, sir, where the east-west and the north-south trails crossed.
What kind of people were they?
Vietnamese.
The bodies, can you describe them?
They were just lying there in a heap, bloody, all ripped up by bullets.
Can you describe those bodies as to sex?
Men and women.
And as to age?
All ages.
All ages?
From old men and women down to kids, even infants. Some of them still in their mother's arms.
All shot, all dead.
They wasn't moving.
How many bodies? Can you estimate?
Between 20 and 30, sir. I also heard there were another 50 bodies in a ditch.
That's all.
Tell me, sir, when you came upon those bodies, were they already dead?
Yes, sir.
See or hear any firing in the vicinity?
No, sir.
Did you, prior to that time, at that time, or thereafter on that day, see this defendant fire anyone?
No, sir, I did not. But the bodies...
You didn't know then, you don't know now who fired the shots that killed those Vietnamese. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's all.
Now, Mr. Stover, as combat photographer with Charlie Company that day, what were your duties?
The usual, photograph any event of interest to the Army for strategic or public relations purposes.
And your equipment?
2 cameras for the Army with black and white film, my own camera with color film.
As you were returning to the village, did you see any Vietnamese?
Yes, sir. At the trail intersection as indicated there, about 40 to 50 civilians squatting there on the trail Vietnamese fashion.
Were they alone?
No, sir. Some GIs were guarding them. I kept walking, then I heard firing, and I looked back.
Oh, where was this gunfire coming from?
2 soldiers there.
Were any people left standing when the firing was over?
No, sir.
Did you later get close to those people?
Close enough to photograph them.
Mr. Stover, I show you this black and white enlargement and ask if it is an exact copy of the photograph you took on that day.
Yes, sir. It is a photograph of the bodies on the north-south trail.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, we would like to introduce this photograph into evidence.
Without objection, so ordered.
Your witness.
Mr. Stover, did I understand you correctly? You made black and white photos for the Army, but color photos for your own personal use.
The Army only gave me black and white film. I paid for the color film myself.
You ever sell any of those color photographs?
Yes, sir.
To whom?
Life magazine.
And what did you receive for Life?
I believe the total was $19,500.
$19,500. Did you ever receive any other money from those photographs, from foreign rights and the like?
$38,499, sir.
$38,499. Wow. Did you ever make the statement you wished you hadn't sold those photographs, but held them for this trial? You could have made even more money.
I can't recall that, but I wouldn't deny it.
So that you actually have a personal interest in the outcome of this trial, don't you?
I wouldn't say that.
Well, would you disagree with those of us who would say that? Withdrawn? Now, isn't it a fact that you never showed those photos to the Army when you returned from Vietnam?
They were my own personal property.
Isn't it a fact you never disclosed those photos until after the Army charged this defendant?
Well,
Are you aware of Mac 5 Directive 20-4 dated 1967?
No, sir.
You know it is the responsibility of all military personnel to report to their commanding officer any war crime they know of, and to preserve the physical evidence.
I never heard of that regulation before.
Oh, it's a serious offense not to comply with an order, known or unknown.
I had no idea.
Stover, did you testify you saw Lieutenant Calley that day at My Lai?
I didn't testify that I saw any lieutenant.
Well, then obviously you didn't see Lieutenant Calley that day.
No, sir, I did not.
Mr. Stover, thank you.
So, Lieutenant Kent, before you joined the Air Force, you were an Army helicopter pilot in Vietnam?
Yes, sir.
And it was your helicopter that spotted the ditch?
Yes, sir. One of my crews said that there was a ditch down there with a lot of people in it, so I checked it out right here, sir.
Thank you. And what did you find there?
There were a lot of bodies in it, dead and wounded.
Did you land?
I saw some Americans, so I hovered towards them, and I motioned for one of them to come over, and I told him that there was a ditch back there with a lot of people in it, wounded people, and I wanted to know if he could help them out.
Do you recall what his response was?
He said the only way to help them would be to put them out of their misery. So I just said, hold your men here and wait up.
Well, how many people were in that ditch when you saw it?
Between 50 and 100. Women, kids, babies, old men, some dead, some still alive.
And what did you do?
We landed, and 2 of my crew went down into the ditch and brought a kid out.
And what did you do with this child?
Airlifted him back to the Quang Ngai Hospital, sir.
Lieutenant, this child, can you describe him?
About the size of a 6-year-old, muddy, blood all over him.
Muddy, blood all over.
Lieutenant, this individual you spoke to at the ditch, did you know him?
No, sir.
Can you recognize him?
No, sir.
You know his rank?
No, sir.
Lieutenant, when you went before the Peers Committee who was investigating this matter for the Army, did you make the statement, at the landing zone, other guns were shooting it up real good?
Yes, sir. One of the Sharks was shooting it up real good.
Shark?
Helicopter gunship.
What rate of fire are those gunships capable of?
All miniguns going, about 6,000 rounds per minute.
6,000 rounds a minute. Seen the infantrymen firing into the ditch?
Sir, one of my crew said that
Did you see men firing into that ditch?
No, sir.
We have absolutely no way of knowing whether the wounds inflicted on those unfortunate people were inflicted by hand weapons, by artillery, or by some shark shooting it up real good, do you?
No, sir.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
An M16 bullet has certain physical characteristics which usually preclude exit wounds. It fragments into a number of pieces, producing bone fractures or a great deal of injury to soft tissue.
See. Doctor, I'm about to show you enlargements of Prosecution Exhibit 12A. Would you examine them, please? Now, do you have an opinion regarding the type of weapon which might have been used to cause these wounds and these deaths?
I can't be certain of all the wounds.
Well, the ones you are certain of.
These appear to have been produced by automatic small arms fire, M16s.
Not by artillery fire?
No, sir.
Not by minigun fire from a Shark helicopter?
No, sir. Small arms fire, M16 fire.
Thank you, Doctor.
Doctor, what difference is there, if any, in its effect on the human body between an M16 and a dum-dum bullet, which is prohibited by the Geneva Convention?
I object to this question. That issue is irrelevant to this trial.
Objection sustained.
I think it's not only relevant, but vital to this case. This boy is on trial for his life for alleged war crimes. Now, if his government handed him a weapon which in itself is guilty of perpetrating a war crime, then maybe we've got the wrong defendant in the dock.
Mr. Latimer, I will not permit that question. You may rephrase it, but without reference to the Geneva Convention.
Doctor, what is the difference in effect between an M16 and a dum-dum bullet?
The question is still irrelevant.
Overruled. The witness will answer.
I wouldn't know. I've never examined a wound produced by a dum-dum bullet.
Court will recess until 1000 hours Monday morning.
I should know the defendant. He was my platoon leader at My Lai.
After you landed and secured the LZ outside the village, what did you do?
We moved through the village, burning hooches, fragging bunkers, shooting cattle, gathering people, moving them up front.
I see. Were any of those people armed?
No, sir.
Did they offer any resistance?
No more than you would if someone walked in on you and your family at breakfast. It was early morning.
Where did you move those people?
To a clearing till we came to a big ditch.
What happened at the ditch?
Lieutenant Calley asked our interpreter to talk to the people. He came back and said something, after which Calley started herding people into the ditch.
Herding?
Shoving them, pushing them into the ditch.
How many people?
10 to 15.
And then?
He gave Frank Crowder an order, and they both started firing their M16s.
At which direction did they fire?
Right into the ditch.
How long did they fire?
I don't know, but Crowder was crying the whole time.
Did Calley say anything to you?
Yes, sir. He asked me to use my machine gun.
At the ditch?
Yes, sir. But I refused.
Miss Peters, did you intend to testify that Lieutenant Calley ordered you to fire your machine gun into that ditch?
No, sir. He asked me if he could use my machine gun.
You ever look into that ditch?
Well, how could I? I was maybe 75 yards away.
Now, you testified on direct examination that Crowder was crying. Who told you that?
No one. I saw him.
From 75 yards away, 3/4 the length of a football field, you saw him crying.
Maybe I was a little closer.
You have tears in his eyes?
Yes, sir.
He was sobbing.
He was crying the whole time he was shooting into that ditch.
Was Crowder looking at you?
No, sir. He was looking down into the ditch.
Crowder's facing down, looking down, and yet you saw tears in his eyes from 75 yards away.
Yes, sir.
You said you never did look into that ditch. Then you don't know whether those bullets hit anybody or not, do you?
Those Vietnamese that were in there, sir, they never did come out.
Thank you.
Mr. Peters, I ask you once more to look at this defendant and tell me, are you absolutely sure you saw him and Frank Crowder herd those people into a ditch and fire at them?
Yes, sir, I did.
Yeah. Hold on a second, Paul. No.
Hey, Rusty, I'm sorry. I was under oath. I had to tell what happened. It's okay. I just only hope I didn't hurt your case too much.
You did what you had to do, I understand.
Okay?
Yeah.
Hey, Rusty, how about that?
Well, I don't think he helped me any, if that's what you mean.
Oh, I'll be just a minute.
You didn't get a message for me by any chance this morning, did you?
No. I guess she couldn't get off. Maybe later. Do back inside, son. Let's go.
And so closed the 8th day of the Cali court-martial with the testimony of Martin Peters, a machine gunner in Cali's platoon. Captain Daniel, for the prosecution, has promised to produce a long list of witnesses to corroborate the damage.
I gotta hand you one thing, Rusty.
What's that?
If guys laid it right on me, right or wrong, I'd want to put the slug on them. I mean, I couldn't sit there and shake hands with them afterwards. That's a fact.
You have no choice. That sounds regular Army. I got nothing against the Army. It's a job.
Yeah. Sure. Only they're trying to put a noose around your neck. Yours, nobody else's. Hey, how do you feel about it?
Well, if anyone
Hey, that's
else...
out. We got a deal, remember? I'll answer anything, but you ask her nothing. You keep her out of this.
Okay. Sorry, Rusty. Gotta get back to the motel, huh?
Yeah, it's getting pretty late.
Hey, sorry, Rusty. It won't happen again, man.
Okay. Next time you buy the drink. Thanks, Rusty. Okay. See you later. Yeah. Good night. Night.
Good luck tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks. Hey. Come on, sit down. Hi.
Hi,
Tired?
a little.
Me too. You weren't in court today.
I was on the day shift.
I missed you.
I asked for night duty, but they can't always work it out.
They could if they wanted to, but you're Callie's girl.
No, they've been very considerate so far. I just had a lot to do and I couldn't get away. How'd it go today?
Not too good. But tomorrow, maybe you better not be there tomorrow.
You said you miss me.
I know, but starting tomorrow, you'll hear things.
Things you never told me before?
No. But hearing it from others, it won't sound the same.
You said you miss me, right?
Yeah.
Then I'll be there, no matter what any witness says.
You remember the first time I told you who I was? I warned warned you to get as far away from me as possible. I've been nothing but trouble for you. You'll be Callie's girl the rest of your life.
Well, if I don't mind.
But you should. Leave me. Now. Bail out.
Hey, Rusty, remember me? I know you. I know who you are, and I know the kind of man you are. And if there's trouble for us, if I don't mind, then you can't.
All right. All right. You stick. Stick with me. We'll make it work out. Okay?
Okay.
Now, for 1 week only, at your nearby Radio Shack store, save almost 30% on our exclusive EC350 memory calculator. Sale price at only $49.95, yet includes memory and percentage keys, constant register, 8-digit floating decimal, and 3-way power. Made by Radio Shack at our own factory in Texas. The memory calculator at $20 off. And there's only one place you can find it, Radio Shack.
Here's something you should know about disinfectants. Standards range from household-type disinfectants to the type that provides the highest level of effectiveness against germs. That's what Lysol spray disinfectant is, and always has been. That's why nothing's better than Lysol spray to kill household germs, including germs that cause odors, mold, mildew, and their odors. Lysol spray also cleans odors out of the air fast. People need what Lysol spray does.
Announcing new Arid XX.
Cut, Paul, just say Arid double X.
The can says Arid.
Paul, just say Arid double X. Roll it.
Announcing new Arid Double X, a brand new extra dry Arid. Use it every day. It keeps you 50% drier than regular Arid. 50% drier? Is that true, 50%?
Cut. It's true, Paul.
I could really use this Arid XX.
Double X, Paul, Arid double X.
Bayer has done it. Introducing new Bayer Children's Cold Tablets. Relieves stuffy nose, reduces fever. Each tablet has an effective decongestant to unstuff stuffy noses, plus Bayer aspirin to reduce fever. And it's in the dosage doctors recommend, all in chewable orange-flavored tablets. To unstuff a stuffy nose and reduce fever of a cold, get new Bayer Children's Cold Tablets.
There is somewhere on some wall, in some latrine, a classic piece of graffiti. It fits all the wars and most of the court-martials. Quote, soldiers who wish to be a hero are practically zero. But those who wish to be civilians, my God, they run into the millions. Unquote.
Mr. Driscoll, what happened to you on your jump into the OZ at My Lai?
I got cut off from the platoon because I landed in this tall elephant grass.
What did you do then?
Well, I went out into the village on my own. I gathered up some people, 4 or 5, and then I was leading them out of the village.
And what did you find?
Well, Lieutenant Calley had some people down the trail there. Old men, women, children.
Is anyone else there?
Oh, yes, sir. Frank Crowder.
What happened then?
Lieutenant Calley told us to take care of the people. So we said okay, and Calley left.
Did he come back?
Oh, yes, sir. And he said, I thought I told you to take care of them. Crowder said, we are. We're watching them.
What did Lieutenant Calley say then?
Then Lieutenant Calley said, no. I mean kill them. I was stunned. Then Calley said, we'll get on line and we'll fire into them. Well, I had to think fast, so I said, I'll watch a tree line off to the right in case anybody tries to get away. Then they got up on line, and I got behind them.
And?
Lieutenant Calley and Crowder, they opened fire.
Where did they fire?
Directly into those people.
And what was the condition of those people when the firing was over?
Lots of heads shot off. There's just pieces of heads. It was bad.
What condition was Frank Crowder in?
Well, Crowder broke down. He said he couldn't kill the people anymore, and he shoved his weapon into my hands. I said, I'm not going to do it. I said, let Callie do it. Well, by that time, there were only a few kids left standing. So Callie opened fire, and he killed them one by one.
Did you later hear any more firing?
Oh, yes, sir. I was coming east out of the village a little while later, and I heard automatic M16 fire. So I went to find out. Lieutenant Callie and Frank Crowder, well, they were standing on the edge of a ditch.
What were they doing?
Firing down into the ditch.
And what did you do?
Well, I looked down into the ditch.
And saw?
People, Vietnamese, lots of them. 70, 80 maybe.
What was the condition of those people?
Well, they were pretty shot up. They're screaming. They're trying to get out of there.
Mr. Driscoll, could you tell the jury approximately how far was the muzzle of Callie's gun from the people in that ditch?
I would say no more than 6 or 7 feet.
Your witness?
How many people did you say were in that ditch?
70, 80 maybe?
Not 10 or 15.
70 to 80.
Mr. Driscoll is minesweep operator that day. Wasn't it your duty to stay with your platoon leader, Lieutenant Callie?
Sir, I already told you. I landed in that tall elephant grass. I got cut off from the CP.
You see any other members of your platoon?
No, sir. You see, sir, if you're carrying the heavy gear, the sweeper and the 79, it's kind of hard to move very fast.
Mr. Driscoll, were you under any medication that day?
I beg your pardon, sir.
I said, Mr. Driscoll, were you under any medication that day?
No, sir.
Is it a fact you were taking penicillin for a venereal disease?
I can't remember whether I was still taking my shots then or not.
Mr. Driscoll, on the 16th of March in the village of My Lai, did you ever expose yourself before a Vietnamese woman?
No, sir.
That day, didn't you threaten the baby of that Vietnamese woman if she refused to perform a sexual act?
No, sir.
And isn't it a fact that Lieutenant Callie came up and ordered you to stop?
No, sir.
And didn't you relate that incident to one of your platoon mates and curse Callie because you stopped?
No, sir.
And isn't it a fact that on a previous patrol you started to rape a Vietnamese woman and Lieutenant Callie ordered you to stop?
No, sir. I don't remember that, sir.
Finally, isn't it the truth that on that day in My Lai you deliberately cut yourself off from your platoon so you could go searching for women to molest and rape?
No, sir. I did not.
Mr. Driscoll, isn't it a fact? You said you would like to see Lieutenant Callie hang.
I don't remember saying that, sir.
Mr. Langham, as one of the platoon's 2 radio telephone operators that day, what was your assignment?
Well, stick with our platoon leader, Lieutenant Callie, so he could stay in touch with the company commander.
And were you with Lieutenant Callie when you met up with Frank Crowder and a group of civilians on the trail?
Yes, sir.
What happened?
Well, Callie tried to talk with them, you know, asking like Viet Cong would do, and the people kept saying, no Viet, no Viet.
And what happened after that?
Well, Callie told Crowder to waste them.
He told Crowder what?
But to waste them, so Crowder started shooting.
Where?
Into the people.
What happened next?
Well, they started firing into the ditch.
Do you remember a helicopter landing at about that time?
Well, yes, sir. Someone hollered that the pilot wanted to talk to who was in charge. So Callie went over.
And when the conversation was done?
Well, Callie came back and said to us, he don't like the way I'm running the show. Hell, I'm the boss here. Callie was mad.
And after that?
Well, we moved along. At the end of this ditch, we came up on a priest.
Well, how do you know he was a priest?
Well, 'cause he was dressed in white robes. And Callie started interrogating him, you know, Viet Cong would do. And this priest said no Viet. And then he put his hands in front of him this way and bowed his head.
And then?
Well, Kelly butt stroked him.
Butt stroked?
Well, yes, sir. He hit him with the butt of his rifle.
Where?
In the mouth. It blooded him and knocked him down. And then this man put his hands in front of his face, sort of pleading.
What did Callie do?
Well, Kelly raised his rifle, and at point blank, he pulled the trigger.
What happened to the priest?
Oh, half his head was blown off.
What's the next thing that happened?
Well, right after that, we heard somebody holler that a child was getting away. Now, it come out of the ditch and was running back towards the village. Now, Kelly chased it and got it. Then he picked it up by the arms and flung it back into the ditch.
Then what did Callie do?
Well, he fired into the ditch.
How many shots did he fire?
Just one.
Just one.
Mr. Langham, first, as to the shooting on the trail. Now, isn't it possible that Lieutenant Callie received a radio telephone call from the company commander before he gave Frank Crowder that order to waste those people?
Well, not through me.
Well, since the platoon has 2 RTOs, isn't it possible there was a conversation between Lieutenant Callie and the company commander and that you wouldn't know about it?
Well, yes, sir. It's possible.
Now, is this individual you assume to be a Vietnamese priest, was he armed? Did you search him to see if he had any concealed weapons?
No, sir.
So when he made this gesture, he might have been reaching for a weapon of some kind.
Oh, I wouldn't know, sir.
Now, as to the child, you claim you saw Lieutenant Callie throw into the ditch and fire at. Did you see that shot hit that child?
No, sir.
Did you see that child dead?
No, sir.
Then you don't know if the child was medevaced to Quang Nai Hospital, do you?
No, sir.
You say there were 18 to 20 people in that ditch?
Yes, sir.
Not 10 to 15 or 70 to 80, but 18 to 20.
Yes, sir.
That'll do it now.
Mr. Kingston, after you came out of the village, what happened?
I approached the ditch, I looked in, I saw a pile of bodies, a mixture of people, women, children, all covered with blood.
Mr. Kingston, could you give me an estimate as to the total number of Vietnamese you saw shoved into that ditch?
90 to 100 people, maybe more.
What's the next thing you remember?
After about an hour, Callie approached my position. There was a young Vietnamese woman coming towards us, approximately 15 feet away. She was raising her hands, giving herself up.
What happened?
Lieutenant Callie shot her several times.
Your Honor, I strenuously object to the introduction of this testimony by the prosecution. At this late stage of the trial, the government chooses to introduce for the first time an unspecified charge of murder.
That's not the purpose.
There are 4 charges in the government specifications. The killings at the crossroad, the killings at the ditch, the killings of the priest, the killings of the little child. This woman's never even been mentioned before. Her mention now not only disqualifies this witness, but forces us to move for a mistrial.
What was trial counsel's purpose?
The defense has made a point of the fact that some men testified they saw 10 to 15 bodies in the ditch. Some said 30 to 40, some 70 to 80. And that on its face seems like a fatal discrepancy, until one realizes that Callie's action went on for an hour and a half. Different men brought up different groups and so saw different numbers of bodies. Now, what seem like discrepancies are actually different moments in the same hour and a half long massacre, thereby also proving premeditation and defendant's willful intent to kill.
The motion for mistrial is denied. However, all the testimony about the woman will be stricken from the record, and the jury is hereby instructed to disregard it entirely. Mr. Latimer, are you ready to cross-examine?
Mr. Kingston, did you ever go over and look into that ditch?
No, sir.
Did you ever say anything to Lieutenant Callie to stop him?
No, sir.
You've reported when you got back to the bivouac area to anyone in command?
No, sir.
Mr. Kingston, is it possible that you are here to testify against this defendant because you are a conscientious objector?
No, sir.
You were opposed to the war in Vietnam?
Before I went over, no.
Now?
I am now, yes.
Mr. Kingston, who was it who finally gave the order to move out of that ditch area?
It was the company commander.
Was he in the area?
Yes, sir.
Close to that ditch?
No, sir. He was 50 to 100 yards west of me and the ditch.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kingston.
Another deadly consequence of our age is coming to light in this trial. The pollution of the language, which in turn perverts our values, subverts our conscience. We do not burn simple huts and whole villages. We search and destroy. We do not fire without thinking. We operate in a free fire zone. We do not shatter a defenseless man's face with the brutal butt of an M16. We butt stroke. Stroke. What a benign and loving word for broken teeth and bones and pulp. Above all, we do not kill, we waste. Waste. A key word now. For the prosecution, Lieutenant Calley wasted innocent civilians. For the defense, he was ordered to waste. Because lieutenants make mistakes, but they don't make policy.
It's not just my nose. It's my sinuses.
Get the fastest relief known for occasional sinus congestion. Use Dristan Vapor Spray. Its medicated vapor penetrates deeper than most nasal sprays. All nasal decongestants work where they reach, but Dristan's added medicated vapor penetrates deeper than its decongestant, further up, further back, starts helping your sinuses feel cooler in seconds. The vapor penetrates deeper than most nasal sprays. Dristan Vapor Spray.
Hi, I'm Carmelita Pope. Do you know how many different sticky cooking problems you can solve with Pam? Spray this pure vegetable coating before cooking, and meatloafs won't stick. Gelatin molds slip out easier. Hash browns scoop up. Chops won't stick. And with Pam, you can practically rinse pans clean. Remember, Pam stops food from sticking. Use Pam and eliminate sticky cooking problems.
You used a dandruff shampoo on Tuesday, and Thursday your dandruff's back. Mother, maybe what you've got is an ordinary dandruff. Ask the doctor.
Flaking and itching could be early signs of eczema, seborrhea, psoriasis. Try Tegrin medicated shampoo. Tegrin shampoo penetrates to the scalp to loosen and wash away flakes. Medicates the scalp to help control flaking and itching with regular use. Tegrin medicated shampoo in cream or lotion.
All right, let's go. These will warm you up. These, hurry! Hurry, hurry! Drive, 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 drive!
You guys ought to be in better shape by now. Look at me. I got 20 years on every one of you.
Even if you're in great shape, hard work and cold weather can make your muscles ache. So rub in Bengay. Bengay's warmth sort of bakes the ache. Warmth is relief, and Bengay is warmth.
Wartalk's protest march film at 10:30.
You ought to fix this thing.
Dumped a whole can of oil in it last night. Well, aren't you going to talk to me? Convince me?
Would it do any good?
No.
Maybe if I didn't know you so well. If I didn't love you. Rusty, you do what you have to do and I'll live with it.
You know, I was afraid of what you were going to say. I was afraid that you'd remind me of things we talked about. Or that piece of land in Columbus. Remember? Was it Sunday? I walked by and we both said at the same time, hey, what a place to build a house.
I even paced off the rooms. As though none of this ever happened. You know, me lie, no court-martial. Maybe one day we could live like other people.
Sure, it might make it easier if I pleaded insanity. I might even get off. Only if... Do I seem insane to you?
He said temporary insanity. It's a legal term.
I know. But it's still not the truth. It really bothers me, you know? It's not true. I can't say it.
Then don't say it.
No matter what it does to the dreaming.
No matter.
You're sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. You've been through a lot, with a lot more coming up you didn't count on. I want you to do what you feel is right. I'm sure.
What? I think I am crazy. About you. And don't let anybody tell you that's temporary either, lady.
It is important that you gentlemen understand this mission into My Lai. Briefings, the defendant's previous experience, the losses the defendant's platoon had suffered, the blood and the gore that he'd seen. The total conditioning of this officer will do much to explain what happened in that now sadly historic place. And with these few words, the defense will go forward. Sir, do you have the title father or anything similar?
Father's fine.
Well, tell me, Father, in March of 1968, as chaplain of the Division Artillery, the Americal Division, did you happen to be in the area of My Lai?
I visited Colonel Landau, the task force commander at his headquarters. Major Duncan was there, too.
Would you tell the court of that conversation?
We discussed the mission into My Lai. Either Colonel Landau or Major Duncan said if they received any return fire whatsoever, they were going to level the entire place completely.
Did you say anything at that point?
I said I didn't think we Americans made war that way.
And what did they say?
One of them said, it's a tough war. There was no more conversation after that.
During your time in Vietnam, what were the two main dangers you faced?
Mines and sniper fire.
During your time in Pinkville, did you ever run into Viet Cong civilian snipers?
Yes, sir.
What were they?
Both young Vietnamese girls, both armed with carbines.
Were they in uniform?
No, they were dressed in civilian clothes.
So that in Pinkville, there was never any clear distinction between civilians and VC?
No, sir.
Or any difference as far as sex is concerned?
Anyone of any sex or age might be Viet Cong, sir.
What were your orders that day in My Lai, Captain?
Wipe out the main force of Viet Cong. The reason we had failed before was that we had let civilians get behind us and harry us with sniper fire.
So, Captain, the order was, under no conditions let civilians get behind you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Captain.
Captain Vorst, as a member of A Company, you were in a blocking position for Charlie Company that day, were you not?
Yes.
And your orders were to block with fire?
Yes.
Captain Vorst, an old man and a little boy came up to your position, and you didn't fire on them, did you?
It wasn't necessary. They weren't armed.
Well, what about your orders to block with fire?
If we had fired, it would have been in contravention of our orders, because it would have meant that we would have to kill unarmed people.
That's all.
As near as you can remember, what were the captain's words during that briefing?
His exact words were, there are no innocent civilians at My Lai. The village should be destroyed and all living things in it.
Was anything said about what to do with so-called friendly civilians?
There wasn't to be any friendly civilians there.
What did VC mean to you?
They were my enemy. They were there to destroy me.
During your indoctrination in Vietnam, did you ever attend classes in what VC were?
Yes, sir. They taught us never to trust a child or a woman or an old person. They told us about people strapping grenades to their bodies, pouring poison in our cokes, dropping grenades down our gas tanks.
Do you ever have any personal experience with a child identified as VC?
Yes, sir. The day following the My Lai operation, I picked up a 14-year-old kid. He was a cadre for the 48th VC.
Was he armed?
He was carrying a rifle.
How long had he served with the 48th Viet Cong Battalion?
Since he was 12 years old.
That's all.
After the captain's briefing, did you expect to meet women and children in the village the next day?
According to his briefing, I didn't expect to meet no civilian personnel, women or children.
Did you?
Yes, sir.
How many?
Just a group of men, women, and children.
What did you do with them?
I told my men to take them to Lieutenant Calley.
You didn't kill them, did you?
No, sir.
The day before My Lai, did you attend a funeral service?
Yes, sir. The chaplain was holding a service for Sergeant Cox.
And after that service, did you attend a briefing by the company commander?
Yes, sir. He said that we were going into My Lai 4. We had suffered a lot of casualties in there. So we'd leave nothing walking, crawling, nor growing.
After the briefing that night, what was your feeling?
That when we hit My Lai, there'd be nothing but the enemy there.
Now, did your platoon take some prisoners, including women and children?
Yes, sir. One of the GIs in my squad asked, what do we do with them? I said, our mission is to kill everything in the village. But I'd call Lieutenant Manton. Maybe there's been a change in orders. So I turned for my radio. But one of the individuals in my squad opened up on these prisoners.
Did you fire?
I turned around and the people were already wounded. So I figured, well, they're already lying there anyhow. So I might as well go ahead and kill them since this is our orders.
How many individuals were in that group?
About 10.
What kind of individuals?
Men, women, and children.
The captain didn't order you to kill women and children, did he?
No, sir. He didn't say to kill women and children.
So your testimony that the captain said to leave nothing walking or crawling was made after he told you you were going to meet the 48th Viet Cong Battalion?
Yes.
Not unarmed women and children?
No.
Did you witness an incident where your company commander fired at a civilian in My Lai?
There was this woman in a rice field making a motion of some kind, and the captain fired at her and she fell. Then he went over to her and fired a few more rounds and killed her.
Did you walk over with the captain?
I was right next to him. She was a woman and she was dead.
Did you see any other groups of dead?
There were lots of bodies laying all around the village.
How many?
As many as 100.
So killing seemed to be the order of the day.
I strenuously object.
Objection sustained.
At this time, we would like to call to the stand a previously reluctant witness, Frank Crowder. So, Mr. Crowder, you gathered up those men, women, and children and brought them to a crossroads area south of the village?
Yes, sir. Then Lieutenant Calley came up and said, you know what to do with him. I assumed he meant guard him. Then he left.
When Calley returned, what happened?
He said, how come they're not dead? I said, I didn't know we were supposed to kill him. He said, waste him. I want him dead.
What happened after that?
Calley started firing into that group of Viet Cong.
Where were you?
Alongside Calley. He ordered me to shoot, too.
What did you do?
I helped him shoot them.
How long did you fire?
Till I burned up about 3 magazines. Calley burned up around 4 or 5.
What was your condition at that time?
Scared. Upset.
Were you crying at that time?
I imagine I was.
Now, sometime later, did you bring a group of Vietnamese up to a ditch?
Yes, sir. 7 or 8 people. Women, children, Viet Cong.
Who was present at the ditch?
Calley, Langham, his radio operator, Smithson.
What was Calley doing?
He had a group of Viet Cong with him.
Well, how do you know they were Viet Cong?
To me, they were all Viet Cong.
Did Callie say anything to you?
Yes, sir. He said we got another job to do.
Job?
Yes, sir. Then he started shoving those people in a ditch and shooting them.
What did you do?
He ordered me to help, so I started shoving them in and shooting them, too.
Did Lieutenant Callie change magazines?
Yes, sir. 10 or 15 times.
How many shells would a clip normally hold?
20.
So the Lieutenant Callie fired between 200 and 300 shots into that ditch?
I guess so.
Could you describe the people in the ditch when the firing was completed?
They were just laying there covered with blood.
Mr. Crowder, did you see anyone alive when you left?
I couldn't tell, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Crowder, before you came here to testify today, were you told by the United States District Attorney that you could not be tried or convicted for any offense arising out of your testimony?
Yes, sir.
No matter what you said?
Yes, sir.
During your basic training, were you ever instructed in the effects of disobeying an order?
Yes, sir. That during combat, if you disobeyed an order, you were liable to get shot right on the spot or court-martialed.
They ever tell you the difference between a legal and an illegal order?
No, sir. If an officer told you to go stand on your head in the middle of a crowded highway, you just go and do it.
Were you present when your company suffered a tragedy in the minefield?
Yes, sir.
How many men were killed or wounded?
18 casualties altogether. I don't know how many was killed.
Were you present during the briefing the captain gave?
Yes, sir.
What was the substance of that briefing, to the best of your recollection?
That there was a strong Viet Cong infrastructure at My Lai. Everyone there was VC or VC sympathizer, so we were supposed to destroy the village and everything. And that included women, children, animals, everything.
Now, when Lieutenant Callie supposedly gave you that order to shoot those civilians, what was your feeling?
I was emotionally upset. But I still believed I was carrying out orders, so I continued to shoot.
During the shooting or immediately afterward, did the captain come into the area?
Yes, sir.
Did he say anything to anyone about it?
No, he did not try to stop it whatsoever. So I took it we were doing the right thing.
Did you see James Barton shoot civilians that day?
Yes, sir.
Did you see Walter Driscoll shoot civilians that day?
Yes, sir.
Did you see other men shoot civilians that day?
Yes, sir.
That is all.
Mr. Crowder, the first time Lieutenant Callie told you, take care of these people, why didn't you shoot them?
Because I thought Callie wanted them held for questioning, interrogation. Besides, I didn't have any orders to shoot them right then.
Did you receive your orders from the captain on the night of the 15th?
To destroy the village and everything else.
Was Lieutenant Callie's order different from the captain's?
Like I said, I thought maybe Callie wanted them held for questioning.
When Lieutenant Callie returned and said, waste them, I want them dead, why didn't you fire first?
Because Callie started firing first.
Was the captain present when he killed the people there?
No.
Could you see him anywhere in that area at the time you killed those people?
No, sir.
By the time the killings occurred at the ditch, you were under quite an emotional strain, weren't you?
I was scared. Frightened.
Why were you afraid if you were carrying out orders?
Because nobody wants to take another human life.
Did you kill those people on the trail because Lieutenant Callie ordered you to, or because the captain ordered you to?
Lieutenant Callie, but I thought it was okay, part of the briefing we had the day before.
When you killed those defenseless people at the ditch, did you receive your specific orders from the captain or Lieutenant Callie?
Lieutenant Callie.
No further questions.
You're excused, sir.
But...
Yeah, go ahead. You may finish.
But the captain came by there later, so I...
assumed everything was okay, because if not, then the captain would have put a stop to it right there. But he didn't.
Well, how do you know he had the opportunity to do so?
Because of the bodies laying around. He knew there was killing going on. If it was wrong, why didn't he put a stop to it? Why?
Mr. Crowder, it is obvious to us that you have received a serious injury. I ask you, on the following morning, didn't you have your foot blown off by a Viet Cong mine?
Yes, sir.
That is all.
Mr. Crowder, on that day after the My Lai operation and you lost your foot, didn't you yell out at the time, "God has punished me for what I did yesterday, and Callie, he'll get you"? Did you say that?
Yes, sir. Yes, I did.
The witness is excused.
Rusty, I've always leveled with you. I can't do any less now.
All right, let's have it.
With the way things are developing, I'm seriously concerned about your taking the stand. I think Mr. Cunny agrees with me.
We said in the beginning I'd take the stand, and I still want to.
It's one thing for you to take the stand and let me examine you. But once the prosecution takes over, I have no control.
And remember, if you don't talk, the prosecution is not allowed to remark on it. The jury is even forbidden to draw any inferences. Evidence to attack your credibility can't be introduced. I wouldn't waive that protection, Rusty.
It's a vital decision. You're on trial for your life. I want to respect your wishes, but I want you to think about it.
Okay, I'll see you in the morning.
Okay, son.
Good night.
Good night.
You're gonna do it, aren't you?
I have to.
Captain Daniels will try to tear you to pieces.
That is his job.
All your lawyers...
I don't give a hoot in hell what my lawyers say. Okay, you got that?
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're the last person in the world I should yell at, God knows.
It's okay.
Look. The United States government wants to call me a murderer. All right. I take full responsibility for what happened. But they hadn't ought to ever do it again. Not in this kind of a war, not in the jungle. You got no friends. Everybody's an enemy. A 10-year-old kid can booby trap you. Every hooch is a hiding place. You are scared. They give you orders. They put you down in a helicopter. They supply you with weapons to waste everything in sight. Everything, every living thing. Okay. But I tell you, they got no right to send another guy ever again into that kind of combat and then call it murder. And I'm going to tell them, if I can.
you feel like you have to.
I have to. I have to. I just don't know if I can. Not so it comes out right.
Rusty, if I could tell some of those newspaper men what you really like.
No. You're in it too much already. I won't allow it. Only no matter what comes out on the stand, I don't want it to change the way you feel about me. Promise.
I promise. I'm gonna be there when you testify.
You know it.
You never look around.
I don't have to. I know you're there.
Lieutenant William Calley.
You swear that the evidence you shall now give in the case, now and herein, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Are you the accused in this case?
Yes, sir.
Your witness.
The defense will now methodically draw from Lieutenant William Calley the story of his life prior to the Army. It's very easy to dismiss Rusty Calley as an average young American. Except, of course, in some ways he isn't. Height, shorter than average. Scholastic record, lower than average. Jobs, car dryer in a car wash. Short order cook, dishwasher. Worked on a railroad. He tried to enlist in the Army, was rejected for impaired hearing. Next time, 1,000 miles from home and broke, he was accepted. He likes bourbon, cooks hamburgers, he had a dog. Ordinary. And on this day, this ordinary man begins to tell the story that will vindicate him or make him guilty of one of the terrible crimes in the military history of this country.
Did you, in your training, either basic or OCS, receive instruction in the rules of land warfare and the Geneva Convention?
There were some classes, but not in the laws and rules of warfare, sir.
Did they ever tell you anything about the legality or illegality of orders?
No, sir.
If you had reason to doubt an order, what were you supposed to do?
You carry out the order and complain later.
Now, when you first came to Vietnam, you then instructed in the manner in which women and children might kill you.
Yes, sir. They were used to warn VC American we're in the area. Also as snipers, also to plant booby traps in mines. Mainly the World War II and Korean War idea of giving candy and chewing gum to children was out. The communists were using that philosophy against us and taking a heavy toll.
Now, prior to My Lai, had you been involved in any operations where you suffered losses to your platoon?
Yes, sir. Very first time out, I lost my RTO. The bullet flattened, and when it came through, it just ripped out his entire kidney. He died in minutes.
Was there a subsequent incident in the minefield?
Yes, sir. Sometime later after I went on R&R. Rest and rehabilitation.
And what happened after you returned from R&R?
I went to the LZ to catch a copter back to my outfit. My outfit had gone to the My Lai area and had caught it in a minefield. There were these incoming medicopters bringing back the wounded and the dead.
What struck you most about that incident?
I helped unload one of the copters. It was filled with gear. It was rifles, rucksacks. Everything was saturated with blood. There were parts of bodies all over the place. I believe there was one arm on it, a piece of a man's face, a half of a man's face, and
And?
The thing that struck me most was the 6 combat boots with the feet still in them.
And those were members of your outfit. What was your feeling at the time?
I was sick to my stomach. I was afraid. Angry that I wasn't there when they needed me.
Now, coming to the events at My Lai, the night before, was there a religious service?
Memorial service for our dead.
And after the service?
The captain told us we were going in against the 48th Battalion, One of the toughest VC battalions. He said it had to be totally destroyed once and for all. Everything.
To the best of your recollection, did anyone ask the captain about civilians?
I believe someone asked him if that meant women and children.
And what did the captain respond?
He said he meant everything. Everything.
Now, what is your first memory about the actual landing?
The pilot told me we were coming in hot. He said, when I get low, unass. So we jumped. Laid down suppressive fire, set up a protective perimeter. Then we got on line formation and moved out into My Lai.
What orders did your troops have?
Put grenades down the bunkers, fire all the hooches, neutralize all personnel swiftly.
Did you receive any instructions from the captain?
Yes, sir. 6 called. 6 was the captain's radio signal. 6 called. He asked me what I was doing. I told him I still had some bunkers to check out, and there were a lot of enemy up ahead of me.
And what did you do then?
I broke out of the village on the southeastern trail, and I ran into Frank Crowder, who was there with a group of people.
Will you tell the court what you said and what Crowder said?
I asked to the effect, do you know what to do with those people? He said, yes, he did.
After that conversation, what did you do?
I saw Driscoll molesting a female, sir. So I told him to get the hell out of there and over to where he belonged.
What was the next conversation you had?
6 called again, the captain. He asked, why was I disobeying his orders? So I explained to him what was slowing me down, and he said, waste the Vietnamese and get my platoon into position. So I went over to Crowder, and I told him if he couldn't move those people, to get rid of them.
Did you do any firing at the time?
No, sir, I did not.
What did you do?
Well, I heard considerable firing, so I moved out. When I came back, I found my men were... Well, they had a number of Vietnamese in the ditch, and they were shooting them.
What did you do when you saw those men shooting into that ditch?
Well, I shot into the ditch also, sir.
Have a chance to observe what was in that ditch?
Yes, sir.
And what did you see?
Dead people, sir.
I've heard witnesses testify of an incident in the ditch with a priest.
I don't know about a priest, but a man was brought to me and I interrogated him. But he refused to answer.
And what did you do then?
Butt stroked him in the mouth, sir.
Did you shoot that man?
No, sir, I did not.
All right. I've heard testimony about a child you saw running from the ditch. You threw him back and shot him.
I did not, no, sir.
Lieutenant, why did you give Frank Crowder that order that if he couldn't move those people, to waste them?
Because that was the order I was given.
By whom?
By my commanding officer.
Now, when your commanding officer gave you that order to waste those people, did you stop to consider the legality or illegality of that order?
No, sir.
That day, did you intend to kill any Vietnamese, man, woman, or child?
I did not, no,
Did you intend to waste anything that day?
Only to waste and destroy the enemy, sir.
Lieutenant Kelly, whatever you did that day at My Lai, were you acting rightly in accordance with your understanding and orders?
I felt then, and I still do, that I carried out the orders I was given. I do not feel wrong in doing so, sir.
How long after My Lai did you serve under the captain?
Until May 1968.
At any time thereafter, when you were serving under the captain, were you ever criticized or reprimanded for your conduct there?
No, sir.
Were you thereafter promoted?
Yes, sir.
Did you know anything about an investigation of the My Lai operation?
2 days after the operation, we were still sweeping the area. Colonel Wilkins came to talk to the captain.
And after the colonel left?
The captain came over to us and he said, well, it looks like I'm going to go to jail for 20 years.
All right. Lieutenant Kelly.
Lieutenant Calley, on 7 January 1971, did you give an interview to the Associated Press?
Yes, sir.
And did you at that time say about your testimony, I'd like to tell it my own way, but that's not how it's done? My lawyers say I must stay within the court rules. Did you make that statement?
Basically, yes, sir.
Have you now told your story the way you wanted to tell it?
There is no way to tell this jury the combat situation as I lived it. Not unless we could hold this court right out there in one of those rice paddies and watch our men getting killed.
When your platoon moved through My Lai, were they firing?
Yes, sir.
What were they firing at?
The enemy, sir.
At people?
The enemy, the Viet Cong.
Were they men?
I don't know, sir.
Did you see any women?
I don't know, sir.
Did you see any children?
I don't know, sir. I wasn't discriminating.
What do you mean you weren't discriminating?
I mean, I wasn't discriminating between individuals in that village. They were all the enemy. They were all Viet Cong.
When you received that first call from the captain, what did you report?
That I had some bunkers to check out in the village, and I had some Vietnamese who were slowing me down.
Well, where were the Vietnamese?
Crowder had them outside the village on the trail.
Well, if you were in the village and they were on a trail, how do you know they were slowing you down?
Well, I know the Vietnamese, and you were not going to move them very fast, sir.
Well, what did the captain say when you told him you had this group of people?
He told me, basically, to get rid of them and get moving, so I found Crowder, and I told him to get moving, sir.
Did you mean for him to kill him at that point?
Not if he could move them.
Later, when you came back to that spot and found Crowder still there, were you angry with him?
Well, I don't think it was a violent anger. I mean, he was slowing me down, but it wasn't his fault. I didn't take it out on him personally.
What did you say to him?
If he couldn't move those people, to waste them.
What did he say?
He said, Roger.
He said, Roger. Did you walk away after you gave him that order?
Yes, sir.
You didn't look back to see if he carried out that order.
Crowder was a good troop. There was no reason to doubt that he would.
You actually felt he was more likely to obey an order to waste those people than an order to move them down the trail?
It wasn't his fault he couldn't move them fast enough.
Lieutenant Calley, when was the first time you became aware of the ditch?
While I was talking with Sergeant Worcester, I heard this firing, so I moved back in that direction. I saw my troop shooting at people in the ditch.
Did you order them to stop firing? Did you reprimand them? What did you do?
I fired into the ditch and told my men to hurry and get into defensive position.
Was Crowder there firing?
Yes, sir.
Was he crying?
I don't know, sir.
Did you ever see Frank Crowder cry that day?
I don't know if I did or not. I just don't remember.
How long did you fire into that ditch?
I have no idea.
What was in that ditch?
People.
How many people?
I don't know, sir.
Well, how far away from them were you when you fired?
Muzzle must have been 5 feet, sir.
Did you see the bullet's impact?
Not that I recall, sir.
Had you ever received any instructions on how to treat prisoners?
In Hawaii, also in officers' candidate school.
What were those instructions?
Treat them with respect. Don't humiliate them. Keep them silent. Keep them separated. Keep them closely guarded, sir.
All right. About the man referred to as a priest. You questioned him. What did you ask?
Are you a VC and where are the VC? He said, no yet. So I asked him again and got the same answer.
Then what did you do?
Butt stroked him in the mouth, sir.
How hard did you butt stroke him?
Quite hard, sir. It bloodied his mouth.
Where was the man when you left him?
On the ground. Then by the time I was a few feet away, he was in the ditch.
How did he get there?
Someone drop-kicked him, sir.
Did you have him searched?
No, sir.
Did you have anyone in that ditch searched?
No, sir.
How close were those people to you?
3 feet, sir.
Were you afraid they might be booby-trapped?
Yes, sir.
Might have a grenade on them?
Yes, sir.
Even the babies?
Yes, sir.
Yet you didn't direct the people be searched.
In a situation like that, you don't get too close. A man makes a move, you can get out of the way, but if you bend over to search him and he pulls a grenade, I mean, if I think there's a potential booby trap, I'm not going to search, sir.
Later that day, did you tell the company commander you had shot the people in that ditch?
Yes, sir, he asked me.
How did he come to ask you about it?
He'd got a call from higher up. They said a helicopter pilot had reported a lot of civilians were killed.
Did he ask you to describe the people you had shot?
No, sir.
Did you offer any description of them?
No, sir.
Did you give him any estimate of dead?
No, sir.
Did you tell him which of your men had been involved?
Involved with what, sir?
The shooting at the ditch.
No, sir.
Why not?
Because it didn't seem like any big deal, sir.
In a newspaper interview, you said that when you were recalled to the States, you had no idea you were going to be put on trial.
Right, sir.
Why did you think you were being sent home?
I thought I was coming home to be
Decorated and promoted, sir.
However strong the case for the prosecution, one thing the defense has skillfully accomplished. It has shifted the focus of the trial from Lieutenant Calley to his captain. This court-martial, this jury, cannot proceed to a just verdict without the testimony of the company commander.
This witness has not been summoned by either party, but at the request of the court. Therefore, instead of the usual procedure, I will conduct the direct examination on behalf of the jury, and thereafter counsel will have the right to cross-examine. Captain, do you willingly agree to testify concerning the events of 16 March 1968?
Yes, sir.
And is this so despite the fact that you are under charges for similar offenses, and this court has granted you no immunity?
I will still testify.
Very well, sir. We've heard testimony here concerning the training about the treatment of prisoners given to your company in Hawaii. What was that training?
The 5 S's. Search, silence, safeguard, speed, and segregate.
And in Vietnam?
We were given 1 day's training on how to deal with Vietnamese people, how to stop them if they are fleeing or trying to evade. We became familiar with words like Dong Lai, meaning stop, or Didi Mao, move out of this area.
Very well. Now, prior to 16 March, had your company engaged in combat operations in the general area of My Lai?
Yes, sir.
Did you suffer any casualties?
Considerable, especially in the minefields.
Can you recall any specific incident in which your company was caught in a minefield?
Yes, sir. I especially remember that day because of something that happened the night before. An individual came up to me and said, "Sir, I don't want you to think that I'm chicken or that I want to leave the men here, but I have a brother who's also serving in Vietnam." So I said, "Why didn't you tell me this before? No 2 members of the same family are supposed to be in combat. I could have put you on a resupply ship and got you back to Chu Lai." But he said, "No, sir, that's not what I wanted. I'll wait till we get back in." The next morning, we were moving rather slow to clear the area when the lead element detonated a mine. Immediately, the cry went up. "Medic! Medic!" We moved in. My senior medic very courageously gave medical assistance till he hit a mine that blew off his foot. We began to evacuate them. There was one individual we could not evacuate. He was dead. It was the lad who had spoken to me the night before. I took a medic with me, and we went over to him. And he...
Yes, Captain?
Well, this lad was split, as if somebody had used a cleaver on him. Right, it's all the way up into his chest cavity. My entire life, I've never seen anything that looks so unreal. His insides, but it was also unreal. It looked plastic. We started to pick him up. The medic began to tremble. I grabbed him and shook him. "My God, don't go to pieces on me now. You're the only medic I've got left. I've got people who are hurt." I finally helped him get himself together. We lost approximately 16 wounded that day, 3 or 4 killed.
And after that, prior to your briefing on My Lai, did you conduct any type of memorial service? We need an answer, Captain.
There was a memorial service.
And then at your briefing for My Lai, did you tell your troops this was their chance to get even with the enemy?
I emphasized that the 48th VC Battalion had been evading us throughout the area, that they were responsible for the mines, the booby traps, and the sniper fire we received, that this was our opportunity to close with the 48th and destroy it.
At that briefing was the question asked of you, do we kill women and children?
Yes, sir.
And what was your reply?
No, you do not kill women and children. If they have a weapon and are trying to engage you, then you can shoot back. But you must use common sense.
We've heard testimony here that on that day you fired upon and killed a Vietnamese woman. Is that true?
Yes, sir. I was coming up the trail, an incline on the trail. She was off in a rice field, lying on her side, facing away from me. As I looked around the area, I caught a movement from her. I thought, she's VC. She's got a weapon. My God, I've had it. So I fired twice. I assume I killed her.
Did you go over and check her out?
No, sir.
One of your orders was to search for weapons. You said you thought this woman was armed, and yet you didn't go over and check her out. Why not?
I was a little scared, upset about having shot her. She was the first person I'd ever killed.
Captain, I will show you, Sergeant, Exhibit 12A, and I will ask you if the scene depicted in that photograph is the same or similar to a scene which you saw on the trail.
Yes, sir, it is.
How many bodies did you estimate there?
20 to 28, sir.
Did you ever give an order, move those civilians out or get rid of them?
No, sir.
Captain, did you ever make the statement, I will go to jail for this?
Yes, sir. Several nights later when I found out how many people had been killed.
Mr. Latimer.
Captain, during your briefing, did you ever tell your company there would be no civilians in My Lai?
I told them that intelligence reports said there would be no non-combatants. They would all be gone to the village market at Son Tin.
Didn't a member of your first platoon ask, are we supposed to kill women and children? Didn't you reply, kill everything that moves?
No, sir.
Then a man who testified to that was lying?
I did not say kill everything that moves.
If a third member of your company asked, do you mean we're to kill everything, men, women, and children, and you replied everything, was that man also lying?
I never said kill everything.
Captain, about Prosecution Exhibit 12A, now when you saw that scene in real life, did you report to the brigade commander what you had observed?
No, sir.
You didn't report to your commanders you'd seen children, infants shot?
No, sir.
Why didn't you?
There were 4 reasons, sir.
May we hear them?
The reasons I suppressed the information were, number 1, instead of going out and doing combat with an armed force, intelligence was faulty. We found nothing but women and children with results which you know by now. I realized the terrible disgrace this would bring on the Army and the uniform I'm proud to wear. Number 2, I also realized the worldwide repercussions this would have against the United States. Number 3, the effect on my family if this became public. And number 4, lastly, myself, sir.
And for those reasons, you engineered this cover-up. Well, look what's happened because you didn't report it. It's far worse. The Army, the uniform, the United States, your family, and you, isn't it?
That's not the proper question, Mr. Latimer.
Captain, I show you your efficiency report on Lieutenant Calley. Was that report written after My Lai?
Yes, sir.
Will you please read what you say concerning Lieutenant Calley?
Lieutenant Calley has performed the duties of an infantry platoon leader under combat conditions. His job knowledge, his display of tactical experience, his overall performance are very satisfactory.
And that is your report on Lieutenant Calley made after the events at My Lai?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Gentlemen, we are dealing here with events that have resulted, not from just one, from a number of tragedies. A group of men trained to kill went out on a mission to confront a strong, wily enemy. Something went wrong. Somebody called the wrong signals. Killings resulted. And then the second tragedy occurred. By his own admission, this incident was covered up by the company commander. It was also covered up by his superiors until the third tragedy occurred, this prosecution. Because once this story came to light, a victim had to be found, this defendant. An act of public contrition had to be performed, this trial. Why has this defendant been singled out? The company commander gave the order to kill, and he's a murderer, too. What of the other men who fired at civilians that day? What of Crowder, whom you heard openly admit firing, killing? If Calley is tried, why not Crowder? Is it only Calley who's guilty? Or is it only Calley who is the scapegoat? We have been treated to the testimony of a helicopter pilot who landed and supposedly remonstrated with the defendant. Yet he is part of that same Air Force that bombs with impunity, that kills nameless, faceless human beings with no qualms of conscience, which just suffers no court-martials as a result. But the artillery, which blasts at targets miles away, levels hooches, villages, kills with anonymous prodigality, and is never brought to the bar of justice. Only the infantryman, who does the same work but with different weapons, is accused, indicted, faced with charges and recriminations, specifications, and forced to fight for his life. Put yourself in this defendant's place on that day, in the place of any of those men. Put yourself in the defendant's place when he saw those bloody boots in the rescue copter, with the feet still in them. And then you get the order to waste them, kill them, they're the enemy. When 12 and 14-year-olds are armed with rifles, grenades, and mines, how do you tell the difference between peaceful civilians and enemy Viet Cong? We turn now to the accusers, the witnesses. They did not come into this courtroom unrehearsed. They had been interviewed many times by the Criminal Investigation Department of the Army. They had been shown photographs of the event, reminded of what to say. Many of them gloried, became celebrities by giving interviews to the television cameras and the news media. Oh, what a beautiful chance to rehearse, to make their stories fit, to gang up on a scapegoat and whitewash themselves. What a chance for a man like Driscoll to cover up his lecherous and vile acts. But the main witness was the man who gave the original order to kill. The captain. The man who admitted covering up this whole incident by failing to report a felony. Now, that is a serious charge against an officer of the United States Army. Why did the captain admit it so freely? Because, gentlemen, he cannot be prosecuted for that offense. The statute of limitations has run out. But on those charges on which he could be tried, there we get nothing but denials. He didn't shoot, he didn't order, he didn't know. I couldn't believe that. Now, it is your turn to question his testimony. One thing is clear, gentlemen. Lieutenant Calley, the lowest officer on the totem pole, has become the pigeon. I ask you, good gentlemen, to give honest consideration to this boy who sits behind me, who has been singled out for accusation and trial, who is the worst, guilty only of errors of judgment. Now, gentlemen, there is a vast difference between errors of judgment and criminality. I ask you to give serious consideration to the situation in which he found himself and the pressures he was under. See, his concern is not for his own life, but for those of his platoon. Gentlemen, that does not constitute criminality. That does not constitute an intent to murder, but intent to save lives. American lives. I ask you to let this boy go free.
Gentlemen, all the defense arguments come down to one argument. The accused did what he did because he was ordered to. They have tried to pit him against the captain. They insist that you must make a choice. Not so. Gentlemen, you have only one defendant to judge and one issue to decide. The responsibility of Lieutenant William Calley. What is the measure of his conduct? He had a duty to obey only lawful orders. He had a duty to act as any reasonable man would have acted under those circumstances. Some men under his command refused to obey his order to shoot. Were they court-martialed for that? They were not, because there is no penalty for refusing to obey an illegal order. I say, even if you believe that the captain did give that order, this defendant is not one whit less guilty. How can you justify the killing in cold blood of a child, an infant, by merely saying it was an order? No man can believe such an order could be legal. No, the choice is not between the captain and Calley. Gentlemen, you are members of an honorable profession, and you have rules governing that profession. Ethics, the laws of warfare, the principles of humane treatment. Those are the guidelines of the professional soldier. The fact that Lieutenant Calley's victims were Vietnamese cannot justify his taking of their lives by summary execution. They may have been VC, they may have been supporters or sympathizers of the VC, or they may have been innocent Vietnamese who just happened to have been in the wrong place at the wrong time in their lives. But who stopped to ask? Did Lieutenant Calley attempt to make that determination? And what choice did the children and infants whom Lieutenant Calley killed have about being in My Lai that day? When the accused put on the uniform of an American soldier and took the oath of allegiance to this country, he was not given a license to slaughter unarmed men, women, and children. Such acts are not now, nor have they ever been justified under the military code of this country. I was following orders. There's no defense, gentlemen, not for a man wearing the uniform of the United States. As the members of this court, you are the conscience of the United States Army. You are the conscience of this country. and you are asked to fix the responsibility where it belongs. The duty is yours to find the accused guilty. As charged.
Sometimes my day starts at 8 in the morning and runs till 10 at night. Well, I can't let a headache interfere with that. I take Anacin. It really comes through for me, and without any upset.
While all three leading pain relievers reach an effective level in your bloodstream in minutes, in the final analysis, only one of them hits and holds the highest level. Anacin. This difference is the extra pain reliever Anacin provides when you have a headache.
For me, Anacin is the one that works.
Anacin, for a higher level of pain reliever.
It's flu season. A lot of people out these days. If you get flu, see your doctor. Get plenty of rest and take Dristan tablets. Look, time capsules have nothing for aches and fever. Dristan has. Aspirin can't help sneezing or congestion. Dristan helps relieve these miseries too. Dristan relieves twice as many of these flu symptoms as leading cold capsules or aspirin. Dristan tablets, strong medicine for flu miseries.
Use only as directed.
Oh, for crying out loud, Louise, what is this?
What's what, dear?
This. Look, I asked you to pack my antiperspirant.
Oh, that. You said you wanted something stronger.
XX?
Our double X, dear. It's new.
Stronger, huh?
Double X helps keep you extra, extra dry. In fact, 50% drier than any spray Aaron's ever made.
50%? I'll use it.
Every day?
Every day. And then I'm coming home. Arid double X, 50% drier. Huh.
I like my lips to look delicious, not dry, to shine with fresh color that stays on and on
You've got it. New Fresh and Lovely Moisture Lip Color by Maybelline.
and on.
In 14 wild and wonderful colors.
Hello, fresh face. Freshest face I've ever seen. That's you.
Yes, that's me.
With a little help from Maybelline. Fresh and Lovely Moisture Lip Color. Hello, Fresh Face.
On Thursday, March 6th, ABC Theater presents an historic event in the world of drama. Laurence Olivier and Katharine Hepburn, two of the world's finest actors, appear together for the first time. A beautiful actress and a successful lawyer, their romance rekindled after 40 years. An original television drama, Love Among the Ruins, next on ABC Theater.
It must be said, no defendant in any court-martial ever receives more impartial and searching consideration than does Lieutenant Calley. Time and again, the jury asks to rehear large sections of testimony. Their deliberations consume not hours, but days, the longest court-martial in our history. Now, sequestered as they are, 3 jurors finally demand the right to at least attend church services. Captain Daniel has no objection, but George Latimer won't budge. After all, he claims, a chaplain might select passages from the Bible which could influence the case. The compromise, a special service, transcribed for the record to be examined by both sides later.
Let us join our hearts and voices in the prayer which Jesus taught us. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
I must caution the spectators to maintain absolute silence in the courtroom. Colonel, has the jury reached its verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
Will you rise and read it, please?
Lieutenant Calley, it is my duty to inform you that the court, upon written ballot, all of the members concurring in each finding, finds you of the charge as to specification 1, guilty. Of the charge as to specification 2, guilty. Of the additional charge as to specification 1, guilty. Of the additional charge as to specification 2, not guilty, but guilty of a violation of Article 134.
Does the defendant wish to be heard?
Yes, sir. Your Honor, please let me know if you can't hear me, sir. Court members, I'm not going to stand here and plead for my life, but I do ask you to consider the thousands more lives that are going to be lost in Southeast Asia. I have never known a soldier, nor did I myself ever wantonly kill a human being. If I have committed a crime, the only crime I've committed is in judgment of my values. Apparently, I valued the lives of my troops more than I did that of the enemy. My troops were being mauled and massacred by an enemy that I couldn't see. I couldn't feel. I couldn't touch. An enemy that nobody in the military ever described to me as anything other than communism. They didn't give it a race. They didn't give it a sex. They didn't give it an age. It was my enemy. When it came between me and that enemy, I had to value the lives of my troops more. That is the only crime I have committed. You have stripped me of all my honor. Please, by your further actions, don't strip other soldiers of their honor. I beg of you.
Gentlemen, we will commence the sentencing phase of the trial tomorrow at 1000 hours. Until that time, the court will stand in recess.
Can I have a minute? I guess we didn't make it.
Every man has to accept responsibility for his own acts. William Calley is responsible for his and was court-martialed for them. But the Secretary of the Army just a few weeks ago paroled Lieutenant Calley and made public for the first time portions of the investigation into My Lai known as the Piers Report. This report reveals that instead of dealing with the atrocities of our troops, we attempted to hide them. More than 30 men were involved. Many were never even charged. 12 had charges dismissed, 3 were acquitted. 1 lieutenant, not 1 captain, not 1 major, not 1 colonel, not 1 general, not any one of 4 commanders-in-chief. But 1 lieutenant is the only man convicted for what happened at My Lai. Now, we heard in this court-martial that men were well indoctrinated to waste, search and destroy, butt stroke, body count. And now the Peers report admits the Army did not sufficiently indoctrinate these same men to the rights and humane judgment guaranteed non-combatants by the Geneva Convention and Army regulations. To quote Secretary of the Army Calloway, "This is a story of the Army which is not a happy one, and none of us is proud of it," unquote. All right. Though Vietnam may have cost us the image of the American soldier with the chocolate bar, that macabre war and this court-martial may serve to reconfirm the belief of the American people that the law of humanity still prevails. Good night.